Hello, my name's Mike. I'm from Access Irrigation Ltd. Today we're looking at drip line. Now drip line is especially useful for borders, hedges or even tree watering. Comes in coils. 25 meters is the smallest coil we do, but that will do an area of 12.5 square meters, so quite a good area. The other size is 100 meter coils, and that'll do an area of 50 square meters. So for a small amount of a drip line, you can cover a great amount of area. Okay, as I say, they come in coils, and you'll notice the label which will tell you what obviously the length of the coil is, what dripper spacing there is, and I'll talk about that in a minute, and also the output of each of those drippers. That's especially useful. Off an average tap supply, you could easily run a 100 meter coil, whatever spacing it is. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to go through the various bits and pieces that you'll need to install a drip line, and we'll also look at how you put the fittings on and the other connections. But before we do any of that, let's talk about the technology that lies behind this drip line, because as you'll see, there's a lot of advantages it has over traditional bits of recycled drip line. The first is the dripper technology. Now all you'll see on the outside of the pipe is a simple hole, but it's more than that. If you had a look inside, you would see there's a sophisticated dripper assembly. Now this dripper assembly is what's called pressure compensated, which means that each of the drippers along the length of pipe that you're running gives out exactly the same amount of water, which is extremely useful if you think about it. So all your plants, etc., will get exactly the same amount of water over a given area. The other things you can see is that this is black inside. Although it's brown on the outside, it has a UV stabilizer colouring inside to protect it from the outside, because obviously a lot of these pipes are going to just be sitting on the soil surface. You'll also notice the wall thickness as well. It's about 1.2 millimeters thick, which means it's resilient to kinking and also crushing as well. So those are the extra advantages you get with a traditional type of dripper. Okay, before we do any assembly, let's think about the connection details for the drip line system. You've got a couple of choices here depending on what water supply you're going to use. If you're simply having a tap connection adjacent to the drip line bed, then you'll use this 3/4 BSP tap connector, and that's got an internal seal, so the barb fitting fits onto the drip line or the supply pipe, and then you'll just screw that directly on the tap. If you've got a temporary supply like a garden hose that you want to click in, then you simply put a filter inside there, and then you add a quick coupling to it like so, and that enables you then to come along, connect your garden hose, and then click it off later. And obviously the filter inside it enables you to clean it out and make sure there's no debris inside it. If you've got an underground supply pipe, normally that would be in a 20 mil MDP type piping, and so you can use this type of elbow here with a compression fitting for the 20 mil coming out the ground, and you'd make sure that that was level with the soil surface. And then you've got a couple of choices again. If you're going to do a hedge run, you'd simply fit a posi-lock fitting to the end, push your pipe on, and then screw that on. Or if you wanted to connect the drip line, say halfway down a line, you'd put a T in. So you'd seal the T on then, like so, and then on both sides of that you'd then put your connection for your drip line. So a couple of choices there, and as I say, you can make it as flexible or as permanent as you want to. The actual connections or fittings for the drip line itself are very easy and very straightforward. You can either buy them as individual components or bag quantity components, or you can buy a complete kit which has everything you need, including the tap connector as well. The fittings, as I say, are very simple. They're a simple push barb fit, and I'll show you how to fit those in a moment. So in the bag quantities or in the kit, you have elbows, straight connectors, T's, and then the fold over stop end. You also, in the complete kit, are provided with the stakes as well for holding it down into the soil, which is important because you want to keep the lines at an even distance. Okay, let's connect the bits of pipe together and show you an example of how you would do it on a border system. Let's clear first of all the bits and pieces out of the way, and I'll bring the pipe forward. Now, the drip line is normally spaced at 0.5 or 0.6 of a metre apart. The reason for that is it gives an even watering of the bed. You don't need to worry that a dripper isn't next to a plant, because remember, we're watering the bed area and we don't need to consider the plants. They will be taken care of. So if you're not sure of your measurement, first of all, if you're using 0.5 in a border, which you would generally do, you could use, if you can not get a tape measure, you could use a spacing between each dripper to give you that spacing arrangement. 0.3 drip line, which is the other drip line that we do, would be usually used on tree rings or for hedge runs. Okay, so what we've got here, and obviously you have to use your imagination because I haven't got the space to do otherwise, but once we've determined our spacing, we then do a header pipe on one end, and then we'll just use fold over stop ends on the other end. Now, you can use the drip line itself, which is convenient because you don't need to worry about anything else, or you can use plain black pipe to connect the two together. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do a couple of elbow connections, and then we'll do a connection out to a hose pipe. What you need for this is some hot water, which I've got here, and you simply dip the end of the pipe in, leave it for a few seconds, and then pop it onto the fitting like so. Now, you need to make sure you go right up to the stop to give you a good tight seal. So I've done that one. Pop the end of the pipe in there again, just for a few seconds, and then make that connection as well, like so. So that gives us one side, and then you do exactly the same side for the other. Fittings moving around. Push fittings on, just off boiled water will be suitable for this, and then we've got our header pipe. Now, obviously the spacing, you need to work out the spacing that you need to do. There's our header connection here. These are our two lines. At the end of the lines, you'll put a stop end, and we'll use a fold over stop end in this case, which is the standard one that you use. So simply push those on, fold the pipe back on itself, and then pop the stop end on, and the same the other side. Very simple to do. Now, obviously, if you were on a soil bed, you'd be able to secure this with the anchorage pegs, but in my case, we just have to pretend. Okay, so there we've got our evenly spaced lines. What I'm going to do is a connection here then for our supply in, and we're going to assume that it's a quick mobile thing that you can just connect a hose into. So all we need to do is cut our header pipe like so, and then we'll use a T connector like so, and then another bit of pipe. So let's pop that on, up to its stop, like so. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, always make sure you cut the pipe between the drippers, otherwise you won't be able to get the fitting on. Okay, so now we've got our header connection here. We'd simply then add another bit of pipe to this end here, which I've got. And in this case, we're going to connect straight onto a hose, aren't we? So we'll just connect this on first, like so. Then we're going to cut the pipe. Bit messy, but there you go. Get out of the way. Then we pop that onto our hose connector or our tap connector. Now don't forget, if you're going to use a quick connector like this brass one here, you do need to put the filter in because that will protect the drip line. So that goes onto there, and then we simply come across with our hose pipe and click in, and then we've got our system working. So you can see it's very easy to put together. All we need is some hot water. Make sure you've got all the bits and pieces if you're buying them individually. Don't forget the stakes and the stop ends. If you're buying the kit, you don't need to worry because you get everything you're going to need.